Hello and welcome everybody to today's TSR Answers session. This is part 2 of our results and clearing special. My name is Grace. I'm a community manager here at the Student Room. If you use the site, you may know me as Strawberry Dreams on site. I'm sure I've spoken to a few of you. It's lovely to see you here again today. So today we're going to be looking at TSR Answers, as I said, which is our live Q&A session where we talk to experts about a variety of different topics that you are looking for answers for. And so today, obviously, results day is just around the corner, only a few hours to go now. And I'm sure many of you are feeling really nervous and have plenty of questions that you want to ask about the process, how the day will work, and also just general advice and support as well. There's so many different things happening, so lots to think about. Here at TSR, we're here to support you as much as possible, so that's why we do things like TSR Answers, our live Q&A. We also do several other things as well, so we have our lovely clearing and applications advisors on hand on site all throughout the week to support you, and so do say hello to them if you see them around. We've also got some free clearing alerts as well, so if you're worried about clearing, there's more information in the first post of this thread, but you can always sign up for our clearing alerts and they give you some information on what universities have spaces available. We also have several other things, lots of content on the site, so do take a look through if you're feeling nervous about anything at all and want to get a little bit more information. And you're in the right place to ask questions about results day as well. So one thing that I wanted to do first was to introduce our panel, who are experts on lots of different topics around results day at the university and just general advice, support and guidance. So I'd like to welcome today's panelists and get them to give a little bit of an introduction and then a brief kind of overview of what they do. So I'd like to firstly introduce Courtney Shepherd from UCAS, who joined us last week.
Hello everybody, and thank you for having me today. My name's Courtney Shepherd. I'm the Customer Experience Manager for students at UCAS. My role is involved helping you and making sure that you have all of the support and guidance that you need through the UCAS process. And it will be my teams who will be there helping you tomorrow if you need to give us a call or contact us over social media. So hopefully you won't need to, but if you do, you're in good hands.
Thank you so much, Courtney, and thank you for joining us again. Secondly, I'd like to welcome Claire Pratt from the University of East Anglia.
Hi, thanks for having me this afternoon. So my name's Claire. I'm the Head of Student Services at the University of East Anglia, and I have particular responsibility for looking after student wellbeing. So I manage all the wellbeing services, the counselling services and general support services at the university. I've got a background in mental health. I've worked before I was at the university. I worked in mental health services with teenagers and young adults for a number of years. So hopefully I can be of use to you today.
Thank you so much, Claire. And now I'd like to welcome Mark Ferris from the National Careers Service.
Hello, thank you for welcoming me. So I'm a careers advisor at National Careers Service. My name's Mark. Chances are if you've had a reply or a comment on the Student Room from National Careers Service, it could well have been me. On there most days, trying to help as much as we can. And the National Careers Service run the exam results helpline, so that's the free government helpline to give people the support that they need to figure out their next steps and to help understand their results and what options it gives them.
Amazing, thank you so much. And then finally, I'd just like to welcome an extra panelist that wasn't on our original list, Pete from the Student Room. He's going to be here to help us with answering some last minute questions around some of the new government advice that was issued last night around results day. Pete, if you'd like to introduce yourself.
Sure, I'm Pete Langley. I'm the Student Room. I'm known as the Learn Ranger. I've had a rather too long career in teaching, in educational publishing and writing, and latterly as the Director of Study Help at the Student Room. I'm also the founder of the website Get Revising.
Awesome, thank you so much for joining us today, Pete. I really appreciate it. So today, as I mentioned, we're going to be answering some questions that have been asked by yourselves, the community, prior to today, both in our Q&A thread and also around the forums more generally. We'll dive into those in a second. just firstly, before we do that, I'd like to have a quick chat with Pete, if that's okay. So, however, there was some information last night, kind of breaking news surrounding grading from the government and this introduction of something called a triple lock process. And that means students could receive the higher result out of their calculated grades, their valid mock exam grades, or an autumn exam grade if they did decide to retake. However, there's been quite a lot of confusion surrounding how the process is going to work, and this obviously was only introduced last night. So although the panel discussion, which we are focusing on today, is more about advice and guidance generally about results day decisions, future choices, we know that this is a huge concern for a lot of students at the moment, and we've seen a lot of questions in the thread around this. So we wanted you, Pete, if you wouldn't mind, to take the first kind of 5 minutes of the Q&A and give us a rundown of the situation and what we know.
Sure, Grace, sure. The original idea for me appearing here was to give some details about how mock exams might be used in the grading process, because I'm sure lots of you have seen the rather frantic media coverage last night and this morning about that. We'd hoped to tell you how it was going to work. There are lots of questions about the process. And we did have a call with Ofqual at 12, the aim of which was to try and find out how they were thinking about it. When we did speak to them, we found they're still working on it. In fact, there was hardly anyone there to talk to us because they're all working on it. And they're not sure of the details yet. Details such as what counts as a valid mock, what sort of assessment do you have to have done a past paper, do you have to cover every part of the specification, does it matter who marked it? What if your teacher is away? All of this sort of thing. They haven't got to that point yet. As soon as they have, we will let you know on the student room. I think in a way it's frustrating, but it's also reassuring that they haven't suddenly come up with something incredibly quick. I mean, they are working quickly, but they are trying to think about students, they are trying to think about fairness, and they are trying to work out something that is going to be successful. I would say the things we do know about that mock exam process is that this is just part of the appeals process over grading, so it is not part of the main grading. The main grading is all done. UCAS, for example, had all the grades some days ago. They are not changing. So the actual grading is done and is working in the way that it was intended by Ofqual when the new system was put into place a few months ago. The mock exam part of it is part of the appeals process. So it's for students who have been disappointed for some reason by their grade, and it's part of a safety net of appeals that will work, because if you think about it, this system was so quickly developed that it's good, it should work for most students, but there will be a few who it doesn't work for, and they need some sort of safety net to help them get the grade they deserve. So going back, having recourse to your mock exam results is part of that appeals process. If you do find after tomorrow that the grade you have received is not what you had hoped, and that you want to appeal for any basis on mock results or some of the other bases for appeal, then the thing to do is to talk to somebody at your school or college. There should be somebody available. You cannot appeal as an individual student. It has to go through your school or your college. And so that is your definite first step in the appeals process. But having said that, we're confident most students will be happy with their grade. If you look overall, the results are going to be slightly up from last year. We know that. We think most people will be happy with it. Most people will get grades that reflect all of their hard work over their 2 years of their A-level courses, and will be able to move on to wherever they want to go. And what's really important, I think, for students is to try to disregard a bit all of the frenzy that is in the media, the political infighting and battling that is going on, and make sure you look at your grade, you celebrate it if it's something to celebrate, and you make sure you've really thought through your destinations, what you're going to do, what your progression routes are. And we've got this TSR Answers that should really help in that process. So make sure you look forward rather than dwelling on the grades as such, and all the media coverage that will be a little bit frenzied, I think, tomorrow. See through that and look to your future.
Thank you so much for that, Pete. That was really helpful. We may get you on a little bit later, again, if any more questions come through, but thank you so much for that overview. That was really useful. So what we're going to do now is we'll head on to the main part of the Q&A and on to the questions. So we've had some questions, as I mentioned, come through on the thread, which is fab, and we've also had a look at some questions that have been asked on forum more generally as well. There are so many different questions happening around results day, people feeling nervous. So firstly, we'll start off with a question around nerves. So somebody asking, I'm feeling really nervous about results day and all the possibilities that could happen. Do you have any tips to stop being nervous about it all? And where can I find some support with this if I need it? I think we'll go to Claire, if that's okay first. Do you have any advice?
I think the first thing I'd say is it's absolutely understandable, normal, natural to be feeling nervous at this point. My A-level results were many years ago, and I can still remember the butterflies and the nerves that I had the night before and walking up to get those grades. It was so nerve-wracking. So how you feel is how you feel, and that's completely all right. So don't beat yourself up about it. Be kind to yourself about how you feel. And I would sort of, moving on from that, although it's completely normal to feel anxious and nervous, it's not a very nice way to feel. So I would try not to overthink, try not to ruminate too much, try and distract yourself a little bit this evening, and put your head somewhere else rather than focusing entirely on tomorrow and what those results are going to be. Talk to people around you, talk to your friends, your family, or people like the student room. There's lots of support out there, and this isn't something that you need to be managing on your own. And I suppose we'll probably come on to this a bit more later, but really remember that whatever the results are tomorrow, it will be okay. There'll be a lot of support around you. If it's the news that you want, then brilliant. If it's not the news that you were expecting or the news that you wanted, there will be other options. So there's always other options. There's always different paths that you can take. So it might feel now in those sort of nerves that this is a be all and end all, that tomorrow really does, there's so much hinges on it, but there will always be other options.
That's great. Thank you so much, Claire. I think that's really useful. I was actually going to ask Courtney as well. I'm sure that you speak to many anxious students on the phone around this time. What advice are you giving as UCAS to kind of quell students' nerves a little bit?
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Grace. And the first one is, Tract will not update at midnight tonight. So don't stay up late stressing and trying to refresh the web page to find out if you can see something early, because it won't work. So that's the first thing. Don't worry about that. As both Pete and Claire have said, I think taking time to consider options for yourself is really, really important. And of course, you will be feeling anxious. You should also be feeling excited, because this is the next stage on your journey through life, whether that's going into uni or something else. It's really exciting for you. So if you're a bit worried about if things don't go according to plan tomorrow, you can get ahead of the game tonight if you wanted to. So start doing some research, have a look at what courses are available in clearing on the UCAS website, write those down, write down the contact numbers, so that if things are a bit different tomorrow, or if you've changed your mind and you want to go through clearing, you've got some options and you can get ahead of that straight away, and you can do something constructive with your time this evening. But everyone's going to be in their own situation, and the decisions that you make over the next few days are for you. Use the resources and people around you, of course, but it's important to think about you and what you want to do next.
Yeah, I think that's really solid advice. So I'm just going to stay with you, if that's okay, Courtney, for the moment. Taking a look at what happens if potentially you do miss your offer, and maybe what would happen if you decided to take autumn exams. So how does that work with your university place? Would universities offer a deferred place, or would they potentially be able to start in January? Or is there a chance that you might have to reapply?
So we've been working with the universities to try and outline what will happen for students if you do decide to take the autumn series of exams. So each university will have their own specific policy about this. So in the first instance, double check their website or get in touch with the admissions team to find out a bit more. So what could happen is you might be enrolled on a course that will start in early 2021. So that could be a January, February, maybe even a March start date, if those are available. The other option is you might have a deferred place, so you'll keep your place secured for entry in 2021. But the other option is you may have to reapply. The autumn series of exams won't count as a reset. I think that's really important. That is a grade within its own right. And if you are applying again next year, it won't be viewed as a reset. So the first thing to do is double check with the uni that you are wanting to go to find out what their steer is, and then you can follow the path that they set out for you.
Thanks. I think that's really useful information. Just following on from that, if an autumn exam isn't considered as a resit and you decided instead that you didn't want to do autumn exams and just wanted to do the summer exams next year and enter yourself in for that, that was your first time taking an exam this year, would that count as a resit?
I think that does count as a reset, but we would need to double check that with Ofqual first.
No worries. Thank you so much for that. I really appreciate it. So we'll have a look now as to kind of what options are if you're actually thinking, oh, I missed my grades, maybe clearing, there's nothing coming up for me, maybe I'm not sure if I want to sit the exams, maybe I don't want to go to uni anymore. So maybe, Mark, this would be a great question for you. What happens if you decide that actually maybe uni's not for you? Maybe someone's not sure about their course or that university itself, take a bit of time out. What else is what other options are open to students this year?
Well, I think it's a really important question because there are a lot of people who are going to find themselves in that position where they feel like they maybe should be going to uni because everyone else is, or because that's just seems to be the done thing, where actually their gut instinct is, I'm not really sure if this is what I want to do. Maybe people are keen to get started in the workplace or keen to learn something a bit more vocational or to learn a skill. And there's no right or wrong answer, I think, is the most important thing. You don't have to do anything because of any imagined social pressure or expectations. You have to do what's right for you. And if you weigh up all the options and do enough research, you will come to the right decision. If you decided that you changed your mind and you didn't want to go to university, the few options are that you can go into the workplace, so you can look for paid employment, sort of get on with getting into the world of work and experiencing that. You could go to college and do a vocational or technical thing. So if you've decided that you want to learn a specific skill, maybe in construction or design or fashion or photography or something like that, you can do at college in a year rather than in 3 years at university. That could be an option as well. You could look at doing higher or degree apprenticeships where you can actually study to university level, but over a longer period of time in the workplace. Or you could take a gap year and, take a bit of time out to reflect. The one thing about university is that's always going to be an option. A lot of people go in as mature students. A lot of people will do a job for 10, 20 years and then go to university and change after that. So deciding against university right now doesn't mean that you're closing the door to it forever. It's always going to be there as an option.
Yeah, I think that's really important advice that people quite often forget. It feels like all or nothing at the time, doesn't it? And it's important to remember that you can always revisit things later on down the line if you decide to change your mind, because that's completely normal. Actually, Claire, I was wondering if we could get your opinion on this as well. I'm sure you've spoken to many students who've kind of got along to university, maybe started for the first couple of weeks and thought, actually, this may not be for me. What advice would you give for students if they're worrying about something similar to that?
I think Mark hit the nail on the head, really, in saying, remembering that uni isn't now or never. It's an option that's there at any point. And as you've just said, Grace, if a student comes to university and you give it a go and you think, do you know what, this isn't for me, or this isn't for me now, you don't have to stay. You can defer your place, you can withdraw, you can then apply at another time. So it's just remembering that the decisions you make now aren't set in stone forever, and there are lots of different opportunities. We have, you know, many students who come to us straight from A levels and sixth form and colleges at 18, 19, and they bring lots with them. But we also have lots of students that come to us at other points in their life who bring with them different experiences, and that's really what makes university such a rich and valuable experience, is that you have so many different people with so many different backgrounds and so many different life experiences. So it certainly isn't a one size fit all. There's lots of opportunities, lots of things that you can do as an alternative to university, or what if you want to give uni a go but not just yet.
Thank you, that's really, really useful. One thing that may be more of a practical aspect to this, and one for you, Courtney, I think, is somebody asked that they no longer wish to go to university, but actually their admissions office is closed until results day, and they're having difficulty getting through to somebody, so they can't actually decline their place or speak to anybody over the phone. How do they go about this in terms of declining their place if they need to and they can't get through to anybody?
Sure, so that's really simple. All we need to do is give us a call at UCAS and we'll do it for you. So really simple. And then tomorrow morning or at some point over the next few days, just let your chosen uni know that you've withdrawn your application, and that's that. So nice and easy.
Wow, that's really nice and simple. Thank you for that. And we've actually just had a live question come through for you, Courtney. Somebody asking, are there going to be more places available at universities around the country, because they've heard that many different students potentially want to defer, or that international students aren't able to come to the UK because of the pandemic? Do you think that universities will be a little bit more lenient with results as a consequence of this?
So it's a different year this year, with all of the changes that the pandemic has brought about. So there will be more people going through clearing for sure. So last year we saw just over 70,000 people who were placed through clearing, so which is really excellent to hear. We're expecting more people to go through clearing this year, partly because there will be some more spaces available, but also this is a demographic dip. So there are less 18-year-olds this year than there have been for a decade or so. So this is the best time for you to choose to go to university if you're worried about getting a place. So probably the total number of spaces available might not necessarily be too different, but proportionately, given the things which are happening, that is something that will work in your favour if you are thinking of applying this year.
Thank you so much for that. So now having a quick look at kind of September and what happens if you do decide to go to university, you get your grades, you're looking at heading off in September. A lot of questions that we're seeing on site at the moment are, how are universities going to keep things safe? What is Freshers Week going to be like in the middle of a pandemic? So Claire, if you had any insight on that at all.
Yeah, absolutely. It's something that the universities have been working really hard on. It's it's completely new situation. So what we can say is it's definitely going to be different. But we have been working really, really hard to make sure that different isn't a bad different, that it's a different that gives opportunities and hopefully mirrors some of the opportunities that we would have had if things were not in a pandemic. So in terms of keeping things safe, some of the things that we're doing at UEA, for example, are a lot more virtual online sessions. So we'll be doing our big lecture style teaching virtually. We will be doing a lot of our Welcome Week activities that would usually have been in big groups of people. Those will be virtual as well. But to balance that out, because obviously not everybody wants to do everything virtually, we'll make sure that there are a number of opportunities to come together with other students and with various staff from across the university in much smaller groups. So you're still having that face-to-face, in-person contact and that opportunity to make relationships and to ask questions in that way. But things will be done in a socially distanced way, in a safe way. So the spaces that we've got at the university are currently being repurposed. So we've got more spaces available for appropriate socially distanced sessions with students. We're looking at developing safe open spaces. So students have got outside areas that are perhaps covered, so they're all weather areas for socialising, as well as for sort of university activities. I know a lot of our clubs and societies, which are very, very active during Freshers Week, are working really hard to make sure that they can still offer everything that they usually would do, but in a different way. So again, there's going to be lots of virtual opportunities, lots of outside opportunities, and lots of sort of smaller group opportunities. So it will certainly feel different, but I'm confident that campus will still have a really nice feel about it, that there'll be people around, and it will feel exciting, like your first week at uni should do.
That sounds really good. It sounds like you put a lot of thought into it, and I'm sure a lot of other universities around the country are doing the same thing. Would you advise if a student isn't sure on what to do, to give their university a call, or maybe check the website to find out all this information?
Yeah, absolutely. The website is a really good place to start. Universities are updating their web pages as they're making plans and developments. So do check those, but also get in touch with your university. The admissions department will have all the information that you need about what next year will look like. At the University of East Anglia, for example, we've got a dedicated team that are looking at working with students who are concerned about starting uni within the pandemic, who may have particular needs, for example, because of their own health, or for those people in their family who have got health conditions. So there's lots and lots available. So yeah, absolutely get in touch with your university and see what's on offer for them, and talk to them about your concerns.
Yeah, I think that's really useful advice. I think the universities hold all the information at the moment, don't they? So definitely the first port of call to go for. Fab. Okay, so we've just got a live question come in for Mark. What would you advise if I get the grades that I need in order to go to university this year, but actually I decide that I want to resit the October exams anyway, just for getting the A-level grades I wanted? Do you think it would be difficult to balance the time between studying at university and studying for A-levels? Is this something that I should be considering altogether? What do you think? So Mark, that question was for you. Is that all right? Oh, I'm not 100% sure what's happened to Mark there. And maybe we could just ask that question over to Courtney, if that's all right. So Courtney, what would you advise if a student was looking to do the kind of autumn exams, even if they got the grades that they needed to go to university in the first place?
I'd suggest the students think quite carefully about that. Perhaps talk to your teacher and your advisor to understand what the curriculum or what that might look like, because you'll be starting new course, new university, different level of study, and that's all new for you, and you might be moving away from home, or you might not be. So that added with the pressure of doing an exam in the autumn that perhaps you haven't had as much interaction with school or college over the last few months as you would normally have had, will be quite stressful. So I'd suggest you think carefully about that first of all. Of course, that if that is what you want to do, then you'll need to balance that workload, and you've got to consider what pressure that will put on you on your university course, as well as achieving any better grades for that autumn series. So think through that really carefully before signing up to do that.
Thank you, Courtney. That's really great advice. I think now we'll just move back to Claire, if that's okay. Just looking again at September and what's happening. We've had quite a few questions about students being worried about moving into accommodation, what that will be like, and also about making friends generally, during a pandemic, and we're all being asked to socially distance. Things are looking very different. What advice would you give about kind of moving into accommodation, telling any worries to do with that, and making friends during Freshers Week?
So I'd say that certainly at UEA, the accommodation is being treated as a household. So you aren't necessarily having to be socially distant from those that you're living in your specific flat with. So it is a good opportunity to make friends in your accommodation. Certainly our experience, we're a campus-based university, so we've got lots and lots of accommodation on campus. And it's always a really lovely few weeks when people are getting to know their flatmates and and making those friendships. We run a system where we have what we call student services residents who are on hand. They live within the residences as well, and are experienced students themselves who run lots of sessions for flats, both social and kind of helping people to sort of understand how to live communally. So I think living communally, living with other students is a brilliant opportunity to make friends and to start to make those connections. Again, I think it will be a different year in terms of the way that we start to connect with people. There will be less big events, but that brings with it lots of opportunities, in my opinion, for us to make friends in a different way. So there'll be much more focus on small group activities and virtual activities, which maybe will help some people to feel able to connect with people in a slightly easier way. Sometimes those really big group events, the mass welcome events, can be really quite intimidating for people. So I think this is an opportunity for universities to think about how to support students to connect with each other and to start to make friends in a different way, but perhaps in a more sustainable way, and a way that maybe feels a little bit less overwhelming. So I think, although as I say, it will be different, and for some people there will be a disappointment that we won't have those really big events that we usually would. I think for others there'll be lots of opportunities, and I know again that UEA is thinking very hard about making sure that people are able to connect and that there are social spaces, and that people aren't going to feel isolated.
That's really helpful advice. Thank you so much, Claire. Just a quick question from Mark. I think you're back now. Sorry about that. I think there was a little bit of technical difficulty there. So we had someone who was thinking about the current situation that we're in, within not only a pandemic, but news today that, you know, we're in a recession now as well, and thinking about university and getting a job that they want after they graduate. What should students be thinking about to make themselves more employable after university? Is there anything we can be doing now? You know, I'm sure this is on a lot of students' minds after they get results. It's not just looking at, you know, the next couple of years. It's what they can be doing from now to make themselves more employable. Do you have any advice at all? Oh no, we lost you again, Mark. Mark, are you there? Oh no, looks like we've got some terrible internet connection. All right, well, we'll move on to something else if that's okay. So we'll go more on to processes around clearing, if that's all right. So Courtney, I'm gonna come for you now if that's okay. So we had somebody come in and ask what would happen if they got rejected from their firm insurance choices, but they decided to appeal and they got their new grades before the 7th of September. Can the university not accept me on the grounds that they are full and make me defer or reapply for 2020? Do we have any more information about that yet?
That is a very, very good question, and hopefully will only apply to a small amount of people. Hopefully everyone will more or less get the grades that they want and get their chosen university. So the first thing to do in that situation is to make sure that you speak to your school or college to lodge that appeal, to get that process rolling. The second thing to do is, with your firm or your insurance choice, get in touch with them as quickly as possible to let them know that you've requested an appeal to your grade, and that might be changing. So what will happen with this is UCAS will receive what we call an amendment file from the awarding body with the new grades on it. And we'll be in touch with the university and with you to keep you up to date with any changes, what that looks like, and what that means to your place. So with each university, it will be different. So it might be that they'll offer you the original course that you applied to, and that will be great. And that will happen for a large proportion of the people who go through that process. There is the chance that that course might well be full, and it might not be due to any specific number controls. It might be a physical setting, or it might be something that is really particular to that course. So in that instance, the university will try and do everything they can to get you on the right course for you. So it'll be a bit of dialogue to talk through what those options look like. And indeed, the option to defer for a year is there, but if that's what you want. So it's really important to speak to the university about the situation, about what that means. And there's every chance that you'll get the course that you originally applied for, but it's best to get in touch with them as soon as possible so that they're aware and they can make sure that they've got the right processes in place to support you.
Thank you. I think that's really useful. I think that's on a lot of students' minds at the moment. There's a lot of confusion out there about places and appeals. So I'm sure a lot of people will find that answer really helpful. Another quick process question for you, Courtney. Hopefully you'll be able to answer this one fairly quickly. Someone has says they've met their requirements for their university, their insurance choice. Do they need to formally reject that offer from their insurance choice to go into clearing or clearing plus?
Okay, so if you've met the conditions of your offer for your firm choice, that should change from conditional to unconditional, and you should see that tomorrow morning. So good to go. Even if you met the conditions for your insurance choice and you don't want to go there, you don't need to do anything. You can go and celebrate and be proud of your achievements. If you met the conditions for your firm choice, so then you then become placed at your insurance, but you don't want to go there or you've had a change of mind, then you can release yourself into clearing. Nice and easy. You can do it on your UCAS track. What I would suggest though, before you do that, you have a think about where it is you want to go. Maybe if you can get in touch with the uni that you want to go to through clearing and make sure that they'll accept you so that when you release yourself into clearing, you'll be able to add that new uni as a clearing choice from 3 o'clock and you've got your offer in the bag.
Thank you, that's really useful information. One last question, if that's okay. We'll head to Claire for you for this one. Somebody coming in saying, I'm finding it really hard to sleep at the moment or to not think about results day. Obviously, it's at the forefront of everyone's minds. What can I do tonight to get a little bit of rest? Is there any advice that you would give at all?
That's a really good question. And again, it's quite common to experience sleep disturbance when you've got a big event coming up and you're feeling sort of anxious and worried about that, or even a bit excited about it. It can still affect your sleep. So I think you can use some distraction to really good effect here. So try and put your brain somewhere else, try and focus on something else, try and you know, stop your thoughts from going round and round about what's going to happen tomorrow, and just let your thinking settle a little bit. Try and do something relaxing, or maybe do some exercise, something that you find helps you to ground yourself and maybe switch those worried thoughts off. Again, try talking to people, and I think Courtney had some really good advice earlier that actually if you feel that you need to focus on doing something productive, maybe start to look at the alternative options. But I would say to limit the time that you do that for. So make sure that you've got a time that you're going to switch off your devices and that you're going to actually get yourself to bed, plan a relaxing activity, whatever that might be. It might be reading, it might be listening to some music. Try and limit your screen time, as that can help us to stay awake, and if we don't want that, then obviously doing the opposite is helpful. And I would also say, if you are finding yourself laying in bed and you're not being able to sleep and your thoughts are whirring and you're feeling those anxious thoughts and those butterflies coming back, it's okay to get up. So usually if we've not been able to sleep for about 20 minutes, it can be helpful to just get up, go and have a walk around the house, or go and get a drink of water or something, sit and read a book for 5 minutes or something, and then try and go back to sleep again. If we lay sort of awake, getting stressed that we're not going to sleep, we're going to keep ourselves awake. So just, you know, again, putting your brain somewhere else is really helpful.
Yeah, that's really useful information. Actually, there's some things there that I haven't thought about when I'm nervous about things and can't sleep. So that's really useful. Thank you so much, everybody. I'm so sorry we had some technical difficulties with Mark just there. Now, just before we head off and finish this Q&A, we've just had some information that Ofqual have just released some more information about the guidelines that were given out by the government yesterday. So I'm just going to bring Pete back to give a little bit of an update on what's been happening. Pete, would you mind letting us know how you've been getting on with finding that information?
Yeah, just while we've been producing this TSR Answers, Ofqual have published a sort of brief statement. And it's a little bit frustrating because they say they are working hard on what is going to constitute a valid quote, mock exam, a valid mock exam, and to determine, they say, what standards of evidence will be required for the appeal. They're working on it, but they say we will provide more detail early next week. Okay, so that is, I consider early next week to be something like in the Monday area. So if you get results tomorrow, you're not going to be able to appeal as yet on that basis through your school. Schools and colleges will have to wait till early next week to find out how exactly they can go about the appeal on the basis of mock exams. But I'm not sure how that affects the general timeline of appeals. If you are, as Courtney I think said, if you are going to appeal and you are holding a university place, then do let them know you are going to appeal. So that's the best I can do. It's a little bit frustrating, but you know, these things do take time, and you would hate for something suddenly rushed to appear that was horribly unsuccessful and just didn't work. So that's why just these things take time. They are going incredibly quickly as it is, but it does take a while.
Thank you so much, Pete. And I believe, Courtney, you just wanted to mention something about a Q&A that you're doing after this.
Yeah, thank you, Grace. So these kinds of sessions, and thank you for the Student Room for inviting me and the other panelists onto these types of sessions. They're so useful because for you as students, you're able to ask questions of people who should be able to give you some answers to those and not dodge the questions or not give you an answer. So later on today, in 20 minutes to be precise, UCAS is doing another Q&A session. This is with the Universities Minister, with Universities UK as well, and also Dr. Rada from BBC Bite Size. She's a GP, and referencing what Claire was saying about putting your mind at rest, she'll have some amazing tips for that. And we've got a couple of sessions online again tomorrow, one early in the morning and then one at lunchtime. And these will be with various people who'd be able to answer your questions and have that sort of community for you to put your questions to people who can make decisions. So we'll be working with the Student Room as well to make sure that we're all giving you consistent advice, and we're all there for you to help you tomorrow as much as you need it. It's a culmination of years worth of work, so you should be proud whatever the outcome is. But we're here, the Student Room are here, all of the universities will be there, and hopefully you'll get the outcome that's right for you.
Thank you so much, Courtney. That's a great way to end the Q&A. So yeah, thank you so much, everyone, to all our wonderful panelists for taking time out of your day to answer questions. It's so appreciated. We hope it was useful for you watching. We're going to link some really useful resources in the thread below as well. And also, if you're not a TSR member yet and you're watching this as a guest, please do sign up, as we are also sending out some really useful emails as well, with all kinds of resources that you'll find really helpful on the day tomorrow. So do just sign up if you're interested in anything like that, and to also interact with us here. We're a lovely bunch. We want to help you out as much as possible. Remember, we're here at the Student Room. We're giving you all the luck in the world for tomorrow. And remember, no matter what happens, that you're more than your results, and there is no wrong path to get to where you need to go. So thank you so much and have a great day. Thank you.